Hello, my name is Ziad Rajabi, and today I'm going to show you how to leverage the Open XML file formats and the Open XML SDK to embed any file within an Open XML file. Specifically, I'm going to show you how to embed a PDF file within a Word document. So let's take a look at an example PDF file that I have on my system here. So this input.pdf file here just contains one page of content, and what I want to do is I want to embed this PDF in a specific region in a Word document. So let's take a look at the Word document that I want embedded. So let's take a look at input.docx, and if you take a look at this document contains a content control called embed object. What I want to do is I want to embed that PDF into the specific region of this content control. Essentially, I just want to swap out the content control for the embedded object. Well, how do I do that? So before we begin, let's create a sample file here, and I've already done that. And this sample file just contains a simple document that just contains an embedded object. And here's the embedded object of my input file. And all I did to do this was insert object and then inserted the PDF file. And if I double click the file, you'll see that it opens up in the Acrobat Reader. Alright, so if I want to take a look at how to actually create this file, let's go ahead and save the document. And let's go take a look at this document within the document reflector. So the SDK comes with 3 free tools. One of them is called the doc reflector, and what the doc reflector will allow us to do is take a look at the XML associated with that file and all the code necessary to generate that file. Specifically, what I'm interested in this particular file is to take a look at the main document part, and what I want to look at is how to actually store an embedded object within a file. So here's the XML on the top. Notice it has a paragraph, and there's the object. This object content here contains a couple pieces of information. So one, there's a prog ID, and this is the prog ID of the application associated with the PDF. So in my computer, it's an acroexchange.document. And I'll show you how to get this from the registry. The next thing you notice here is there's a reference to the object itself. And the object itself is stored in the file format as an iStorage. And you'll see right here it's word embeddings olaobject.bin. This is an iStorage. The actual structure of this iStorage is unknown to us because it is Adobe that actually creates this iStorage. The other piece of information in this object is a reference to an image that represents the first page of the embedded object. And you'll notice that that reference here is just referencing the image1.emf file. So we need the prog ID, we need the image EMF, and we need the iStorage for the object. So how do we actually create this? Before I move out of this application here, I will show you that in the below screen here, you'll have the code necessary to create this paragraph that contains the object. I'm going to reuse this code right here later on, and I'll show you where I'm going to do it. But essentially, the doc reflector here is a great tool to figure out what XML, what content is needed to actually generate this specific file that you're interested in. Alright, so let's close this down, and let's go figure out how to actually generate the EMF and the iStorage. Before that, let's go and take a look at where to figure out how to get the prog ID. So first we go look in our registry. So this is regedit, and what we want is we want to look at hkey classes root, and in this directory we want to look for PDF key. And once we find that, we'll find 2 subkeys. One of the subkeys is called default, and this default key subkey will contain the value, in this case it's called acroexchange.document, that represents the prog ID associated of the application associated with my PDF file. We're going to use this later on, as I showed you in the XML in the doc reflector. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is create the iStorage and the EMF file. So to do that, we're actually going to leverage a C++ program that I created, and the source code of this program and the other program I'm going to show you is all on Brian Jones's blog, and you can do a quick search on any search engine, and Brian is spelled B-R-I-A-N and the last name J-O-N-E-S, and you'll find a blog post specifically on this topic. In any case, here's the C++ program, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to call into OLA32DLL to help me create a couple of files here. So the first file I want to create is the iStorage, and to create the iStorage, I'm just going to call into this create storage, and then I'm going to create the actual iStorage from OLA create from file. So it's going to go and invoke the OLA server associated with my PDF, and then go ahead and generate the iStorage that is necessary for that particular file format. The next thing I'm going to do is call my copy enhanced meta file, which is essentially going to, again, invoke the OLA server to generate an enhanced meta file that represents the embedded object. Okay, at this point I should have my two files. So let's go ahead and run it. So if we go to our command prompt here, you'll see that I have my input PDF already in my directory. So input PDF is ready right there. So let's go ahead and call package, give it the input PDF, output a input pdf.bin, that's going to be the iStorage, and output the output.emf file. Alright, so the program just ran, and if I go out here, you'll see, if we take a look at output EMF, this is the first page of the PDF file itself. So next thing we do is, let's go ahead and copy these two files into my other program, and I'll show you that right now. And essentially what this program is going to do is it's going to leverage the SDK, and it's going to leverage those two files to actually create the resulting file. So to take a look here what we're doing, so the first thing we need to do is go open up that template document I showed you earlier. And that's what this is doing. Get the main document part. Then I'm going to create an image part. This image part is going to be of type EMF. And then I'm going to feed it the data of my EMF that I generated from my C++ program. Alright, so now I just added the image part. The next thing I need to do is add the embedded object part. So I'm going to add an embedded object part. I'm going to give it a content type of a generic content type for all the objects, because we don't know the content type of this iStorage. Then we're going to feed the data of the input pdf.bin file that we generated from our C++ program. Alright, the last step here is to then create the paragraph that's going to store the information of the embedded PDF. Well, we need a couple pieces of information. One is the prog ID, which I showed you how to get earlier, and then we need the relationship IDs of the image part we just added and the embedded object part we just added. Alright, and then create embedded object PDF paragraph is a method I created that takes in these three parameters and will automatically generate the necessary paragraph that I'm going to insert into my document. Now notice this is the same code I pulled out from my doc reflector. The only difference is I am going to make use of these three IDs here. Alright, once I have that paragraph created, I'm then going to need to go find the content control that has the name embed object, and that's what this thing does. Then I'm going to swap out the content control for my created paragraph, and then save out the document. So let's go ahead and run this solution. Alright, and now if we go out here, I should have an output document, and if you go look at the output document, notice the content control is gone, but here's the PDF, and if I double click it, there you go. And just like that, we've inserted a embedded object of type PDF into our Word document. Now notice this solution can be used for any type of embedded object, but I should note that this solution requires the invoking the OLA server.